Right, kia ora everyone. I'm going to kickstart this. It's 10:30 on the dot, and I am nothing if not a yellow dot personality and love starting things on time. So people will keep coming in and joining in as we go, Kim, and they'll be able to see what we're doing. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce my current former work wife, Kim Smith, to the presentation floor this morning. Not only is she our New Zealand Volley Ferns captain, but she's one of the most powerful coaches and teachers that I've ever had the pleasure of working with. And today she's going to take us through some real practical applications of putting the H and E back in the P. So I'm going to hand over to you, Kim, and you can explain to everyone how you're going to do things. Just before I do that, if anyone has any questions throughout the presentation, please chuck it up in the chat. And if need be, I will interrupt Kim and source that question. If not, I will definitely make sure that she writes, that she answers that and addresses it at the end of our session. So enjoy, everyone, and Kimbo, it's all over to you.
Cool. Okay, hi everyone. So I was probably about a month back now. Jules came in and said that she was working for PENZ and that she needed a couple of people to do some online presentations. And that is one person, Little Miss Bossy. She's called Little Miss Bossy for a reason, that you cannot say no to. And I guess that's why I'm in the situation that I am now, being her acting HAD and now doing this presentation online. And I thought we were all done with all the online teaching, and so thanks, Jules, for that. At the time, they needed the blurbs quite quickly, so sort of uncreative, not very creative of me, just came up with the putting the H and E in the P. And I guess that's because that's sort of been a theme of PENZ of late, and it is definitely part of my philosophy and something that I've been trying to push within our department about looking to why do we teach the theory content? Well, why do we even think of it as theory content when it is actually just content? And we have an awesome curriculum that allows us to move. So why are we not teaching this through movement or finding any way possible to teach any of those health topics or PE theory and practical? So hence why I came up with that name. But that was during a long term where I wasn't feeling very creative. And as the holidays have hit, I got thinking, I was actually house sitting over at my friend's house in Spencerville while they went up to Paeroa. And I was trying to look for the cheese grater and I couldn't find it anywhere in the sort of four main spots that you would normally look for it. And so I got thinking, the cheese grater is one of those items in the kitchen that doesn't really have a spot. So if you went and house sat at somebody else's house, you would be able to find the teaspoons, you'd be able to find cups, plates, etc. But the grater doesn't seem to have a place. So what I actually did was chucked up a question onto our Shirley Boys Snapchat page, and sure enough, everyone had a different place for that cheese grater. The cheese grater, so if I actually could name my presentation now, it would be Who Moved My Cheese Grater? And the reason I got thinking about this was, I guess, thinking about blocks of learning. So a block of learning is our cheese. So at Shirley Boys, we have themes of learning. And for each theme of learning, we have created a whole list of learning outcomes that we want to get through. So the block of cheese for me is the block of learning that we need to get through. And currently what I think is happening probably still in a lot of schools, and definitely is still our default, especially when we get busy, is we tend to go for the knife and sort of the process of how we're going to break down that learning for our students. And we go for the knife in the way that it is normally 2 practical lessons, 1 theory lesson. But the problem with going for the knife, I believe, is that sometimes we chop the slices of cheese way too thick, and we don't want to have that slice of cheese on our crackers like that. It's too hard to, or it's too gross to sort of get down in one. Sometimes when we slice the cheese, it's really thick at one end and really thin down the other end, sort of showing that imbalance with what some students can actually get through in a theory lesson and what others can. So what I'm sort of focusing on today is wanting you guys to think about where your cheese grater is in your school, and why it's so good to use a cheese grater rather than a knife when we're breaking down particularly our junior content into nice little chunks. So the whole purpose of the cheese grater is that it can break down that cheese, which is a whole lot of learning at the start of a unit, into just little tiny bits that are coming at the students little and often. And that could be as little as when you're starting a game of dodgeball or some sort of tag game and they're lining up on the back walls, just telling them a particular bone or muscle to put on the back wall. Like, that's what I mean by just little and often, just constantly delivering that content into our practical lessons. So the theme is actually who moved my cheese grater and how are we going to use it. So the cheese, what we're going to get through today is anatomy, some stuff around bones of the body and axial skeleton, 3 examples of mental skills: arousal control, relaxation, box breathing, and growth, fixed and growth mindset. And then if we get time, down to more of our health into PE examples with nutrition and a few other ones that I'll just talk through. So at Shirley Boys, like I said, we have themes of learning. So our 9 HPE theme of learning for this term was Rawa, which means my resources, my treasures. So part of that is our anatomy, looking at our body as our treasure, and looking at anatomy, skeletal system, and particularly the axial skeleton. We want them to get their head around in year 9. This is Mr. Dunn. Mr. Chatterbox absolutely loves a story. He is my assistant HOD. He loves a story, but he probably loves running more. So over lockdown, he ran 500 Ks in 53 days. So as you can see, he is a really keen around kinesthetic learning and moving while we're learning as well. He definitely still sees a place for going into the classroom and doing some theory and that sort of thing, but we're finding out ways to do that in a more practical way. So Mr. Dunn over lockdown created a nice video getting the boys out from behind their screens and actually making a skeleton. So by the end of this lesson, students will be able to demonstrate the understanding of the correct positioning of the bones of the skeleton, and will be able to verbally or write to identify the correct bones that make up the skeletal system. Now, the videos, I've got a few videos in this presentation, however, they don't seem to be wanting to project sound. So what you can do, and now that Jules and Heather have changed my view, I can't find it. Can you help Carl or Jules with where they can find their links? Maybe? Hello. Yeah. So if you all go on to handouts, which is where your chat is at the top left, on the right is handouts, there's a document there that says links for Kim. And what I think will be easier is when I play the video, I will still play the video just so that we can get all the right time, all working on the same time. If you can click on the link on your own computer, that way you can hear the sound, and then we'll come back and have a quick tutorial about that. So we will play this now. If you can click into those links, find the first one, which is skeletal system. All good, Jules? Uh-oh. Cool. So hopefully everyone is finishing up that video now. So this was just an example of a lockdown that our students did. So it's just, I guess, not really practical as such, but practical in the creation and making of it. So we really love this, that particularly at the start of lockdown, lots of them didn't know many of the bones of the body, and then they were able to create these and upload them onto their OneNote, which was awesome. So that was the start of our lockdown. Now this is Connor Treleaven, Kevy, or Mr. T. He is actually an old boys high boy, so that gives the boys in the department lots of banter, and probably the Shirley boys who know that he used to go to boys high. This guy can turn dodgeball into any learning context, so he can add any content into dodgeball. So this next example is, again, looking at anatomy and the skeleton, but particularly the axial skeleton. So this lesson here is a co-teaching between Dunny and Kebby. And by the end of the lesson, students will be able to identify the bones that make up the axial skeleton and name the vital organs those bones protect. And we've used medic dodgeball or king and guard dodgeball, whatever you call it, as the example here. So if you go back to your links, this one is a little bit longer. So this is about a 6-minute video. So for the next 6 minutes, if you just watch that, turn up the volume nice and loud, because this is definitely some authentic teaching and learning going on in our Shirley Boys environment. It is in the gym where we have Avonside right next door, just behind a canvas curtain. So you can hear a lot of girls screaming and yelling and that sort of thing in the background. So it's just that's just what it's like for us teaching, and I couldn't really do much about the environment. So turn up the volume so that you can hear, especially Kevy. He's got a really, really quiet voice. And I'll see you in the next 6 minutes. Okay. Cool. So hopefully that sparked a few ideas about how maybe you could run that game. Some of you maybe do a game similar to that. I think to make it even better for the visual, it would be using headgear for the person who is protecting the cranium. Maybe for the ribs who are wrapping around the lungs, having boxing gloves. So that's their sort of way of showing how they're protecting and blocking away anything to hit the lungs. So there's different ways that you could add some visuals in there, I think. Cool. So heading into, Jill's popping up. Are you guys wanting to jump in? No. Okay. Heading into 10 HPE. The unit that theme of learning that we're on at the moment is now Widow, which is the challenge, taking on the challenge. And in the last couple of weeks of the term, the focus is around mental skills. So we've got a few different examples here. There's in these links, there's links to sort of a lesson plan and shows you how it links to AOs and that sort of thing, which you can access once this gets sent out. So Kirsten Hill from Canterbury Teachers College, she was our trainee teacher, so I was lucky to have her in with me. We looked at arousal control strategies. Basically, I think in the past with mental skills, a lot of the time we go into theory, we look at the arousal control, inverted U theory, and we talk about it and we might practice some sort of breathing techniques and things like that, but we don't actually have them competing or participating in physical activity straight away so that they can feel the benefit or the influence of that arousal control strategy. So I think that's probably been our change in the last year or two, is bringing more of these mental skills into our practical a little bit more. So by the end of this lesson, students will have experienced 4 arousal control strategies and have used the inverted U theory to reflect on how this influences their levels of arousal for their competition. So again, in the handouts, this is the third one down. It's 2.5 minutes. You can see, watch that video now. Okay. Oh, our next, this is Knox. So he's our most inokatafua. He is our most recent addition to Shirley Boys department. He's just come up from Otago Boys with his family. They've just moved back up home. And he's normally, well, has grown up as a West Sider out in Hornby. So he's just starting to come to grips that he's now an East Sider over in Shirley. Poor Knox is learning the hard way around how strict we are with our equipment management. And in week 11 of term COVID, he had 3 shouts for that week. So we got some nice cheese and crackers. We got some pita, like lunch that he did for us, pita bread, wrap type things, and then put some beers on for the end of the week. So got absolutely slammed with his equipment management. So he's learning fast. Now the next person we have is Silky, Devere Silcock. He is our PRT, provisionally registered teacher. He gets definitely put through his paces in our department, just like any PRT does, I'm sure. His management portfolio is teacher in charge of kitchen. Just recently, when Jules came in as a reliever, she made a toasty at lunchtime and then had to boost off to her period 5 class on the other side of the school and left the toasty maker uncleaned. It took Devere probably about, I don't know how many days to say to anyone else that he was going to hit up Jules, and then to actually hit up Jules the next time she came in was definitely a big lesson on his assertive communication skills. So yeah, definitely developing Silky as a teacher on a whole. So him and Knox, the next video is them together. They're both looking at box breathing. I guess with our theory and our practice, so we definitely have different philosophies around this still within our department. I'm probably someone who thinks that we can teach all of the theory in practical. There are others that still want to do the 2 practical, 1 theory. And then there's sort of a mix where some people want to go in to do theory for about the first 15 minutes and then finish the last sort of 35 minutes out in practical, or vice versa, doing it the other way. So Knox he goes into the classroom so that he can get a visual up on the screen for the box breathing for the boys. Devere is already in the gym and he's already talked through box breathing by the time I get to him with this video. And Knox is going to look at using the box breathing for a free throw competition, and Devere looks at a basketball sudden death tournament where they play for 4 minutes and then they go and shoot for sudden death, basically. So hopefully this next video you can understand the difference of what's going on. They're teaching in the same area, hence why it sort of flicks between the 2. So again, into handouts, if you click down to the 4th video, which is a 6 minutes long, and I'll see you after that. Cool. So that's our box breathing, relaxation, and action. Again, you could choose any context. We just found that, free throws was probably the most common one that we could use. Okay, the next person is EDP. He is our director of e-learning, but he's our hey Eric, so gets absolutely no work done in our office because he knows the answer to everything technical, a bit like a cow. So he's our hey Eric, to which every response is restart your computer before we even ask our question. He loves the challenge from Cavi and Dawson, who every single day do a morning and afternoon stuff quiz, and Cavi reckons he's beaten him once, but I don't think anyone has better general knowledge than Eric there. Now he is going to take us through fixed versus growth mindset. Cavi is co-teaching with Eric in this one, but he must just be the equipment manager because he doesn't really say a lot in this lesson. So by the end of this lesson, students will be able to think about what they are thinking by demonstrating when they have a fixed mindset thought and when they have a growth mindset thought. Students will experience what it is like to work with people of similar mindset and what impact this can have on levels of physical activity. So again, into handouts, down to growth, which is just under 6 minutes this video, and we'll see you back here. Alrighty, hopefully that gave you some ideas and sparked some other ideas about how you could use maybe the coloured cones, or maybe something different around the fixed, representing the fixed and growth. Hi.
Hi. We're just getting ready to put the H&E back into the physical.
Okay, that's cool. So just to wrap up, lastly, this is Scary Eyes, Mr. Christie, TC, Mr. Bump is our teacher in charge of health education. And he definitely has a philosophy around, why has it been separated into health content and PE content? It's the same curriculum. Why are we not teaching it together? So a couple of years back, we managed to get our school to change our titles of our classes to HPE rather than health and PE. And with that, when we had the themes of learning come in, that gave us a really good opportunity to remove friendships, bullying, nutrition out of our health classes and actually into the HPE, and just filter them into whatever unit they fitted in best. So he's definitely been someone who's led through that. So just to talk through the last couple, there is one more video on nutrition really quickly, but we won't go through that. You can go through that in your own time. But it's basically looking at food groups using either different coloured cones or different coloured spots, just to represent the different colours of the food group. So doing rob the nest or capture the flag or any sort of relays to reinforce that. I have a literacy class, and I feel that one lesson doing the food groups, they absolutely nailed it, and it would probably take me 3 lessons to do it through PowerPoints and in a theory lesson with them. So I feel like for the literacy classes, that worked really well. Some other examples we do for friendships or for relationships, they have some values cards, and they have to do some pyramid building and basically looking at what are the most important qualities, what are the least important qualities, and then comparing them from a friendship to a romantic relationship, and doing that obviously in the gym. We've got the silent scenario cards for our bullying or conflict resolution, and using any physical context. Cavi would obviously choose dodgeball, but anyone could choose anything else. So chuck them in there, and then debrief around that conflict resolution and just watch it in action. Obviously, Susie's given us lots of ideas over the years around how to incorporate our underlying concepts into our teaching and learning. So hold it as content or as an underlying concept, with the tarp and the ping pong ball, having people trying to balance that, going through obstacle courses, or again, you could chuck it into a dodgeball example, where you're trying to either hit out all of the people who are playing, one way to win, or the other way would be to knock out the 4 balls, so the 4 people that are holding the edges of the tarp, and knock that ping pong ball. So if the ping pong ball was to come off the tarp, then that would be the whole game. So that could be another example of how to use holder. And then resilience, this is one of my favourite ones I actually got it from a volleyball coaching PD that I attended a couple of years ago. And it looks at different scoring methods. And I really like this because your units, nothing really needs to change, but the way that you score can really bring out the resilience and the growth mindset stuff. And you can see how people react. It works really well for volleyball because there's sets, but it can work. And we've used it for, TC and I used it for sevens for a couple of things. But yeah, you can try and make it work. So for example, the handicap score, if in set one team won 25 and the other team were 20, then the next time you go and play the second set, then they would start on the handicap with the 5-point lead. So that just evens some things out. It's a pretty obvious one. Flipped score is where you can emphasize something that you are looking for. So it might be that you want them to pass to 5 people before they score. And if they do that and they're currently on the lower score, then they get to flip the score and they get the highest score for that one. You can add in a grenade or a bomb, so anything that you really don't want to happen, like in a PE class it could be swearing or human statues or human cones where they're not participating. So if you see any of that, then they could grenade all the way back down to either 0 or a certain number of points. And then again, you can sort of combine those flip score and the grenade into snakes and ladders. So you could decide what a ladder is, so that could be the passing to 3 people before you score. That could put them up 3 points straight away if they do that. And then a snake, if it was the swearing example, that would drop them down 3 points. So they're constantly going through snakes and ladders and doing the ups and downs and having to look at how their resilience is during that practical example. And then I've just linked in those lesson ideas that I've just verbalized through on there as well, and where it links into our groups. And then there's last week's example, and that is us. So the whole concept is, how are you going to use the cheese grater, getting that little and often theory into your practice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
Thanks, Kimbo.
All good. Thank you.
I think there's some pretty awesome examples of how we can run with this in our classes. I know it certainly makes me want to come back and teach full time, but don't tell the boss that.
Kim, you're presenting so many really usable ideas there, and it's about having your eyes and ears and thoughts open to different ways of achieving what we're all trying to achieve in our classes with our students. And some of the chat comments, Dean put in, "This is genius," and Melissa obviously really liked the videos that you were showing that kind of gave a real sense of this being very workable. So they're cool to think about these. Is perhaps challenging us to step outside our comfort zone and challenge the status quo, but that they're doable and we've seen them work, and now it's a case of taking them and making them apply to our own settings, which I'm sure they will. Yeah. And if you can get Tony Christie, who obviously did look like a possum stuck in headlights, to actually be an educator, considering he looked like he should be arrested and taken away in that photo, then I think there is real magic happening in your department, and hats off to you. Awesome.
That's right. We often use that photo for our impact on drugs and alcohol. So it's one of those myth photos that gets sort of put in the PowerPoint.
Nothing better. Yeah.
I guess his eyes just look like that because he's had 6 surgeries between the age of 17 and 25. So I guess the medical imaging sort of flash and a camera flash sort of brings that same physiological response out of him. So it's either that, or it's just his he's really into code and rugby. So that's often the look I get when I'm leading our department meetings, and he's looking straight back at me, and I think it's like I'm listening, but actually all he's seeing is backline moves going across his brain. So there's lots of reasons for those eyes, I think. So he's probably the only one who can tell us the real reason why he looks that way.
And he may choose not to ever disclose it either. Yeah. Hey, lots of people were saying, they really enjoyed what you've shared. They, finding this is something that will be inspiring them as we go back into term 3. So thank you very much. The H and the E and the P, it's all coming together. And I think just looking ahead to the review of the achievement standards, I think there'll be something in this that we can move forward and embrace when we are being challenged to think of our program design, and in particular with 4 achievement standards at level 1 for HPE. We're going to need to consider how this cheese grater metaphor can come to life for us. So excellent stuff. Thank you so much. On behalf of PENZ, you've given up your time, as do all our presenters, to make this possible, and we're really, really grateful for your contribution. So cheers, Kim.
Thanks, Kim.
For having me.
And just remind everyone that all of these resources will be up on the conference website. If you want to access them and run with them next term, go for it. It'll be awesome to see some of these examples being rolled out. Thank you.
Ka kite.
Thank you.